Today we're going to be talking about something very nostalgic to me. My favorite game of all time. Something comforting. Something so spooky that I walked around the map as a 6-year-old kid and I was freaking out because I couldn't figure out how to press the stupid freaking red button right here. Anyways, welcome back to the coffee house. Hello, everyone. And first off, I want to say thank you for all the subscribers and views I got on my first video. To say it's performing better than I expected is an understatement because, brother, I was expecting like 3 hoes on that, max. However, it's nice to find like minded people here who just enjoy a little bit of everything or learning something new. I always saw video creation as a fun hobby, so let's see where this goes. As you can tell by the intro, today we're going to be talking about 2001's Luigi's Mansion. I'm actually playing through the entire series as we speak, and I'm about a third of the way into the third one. To be honest with you, Luigi's Mansion is my favorite game of all time. I know there's so many games out there to play, and I enjoy so many of them, but this one always brings me some sort of comfort and nostalgia that I just don't get with other games. So today, I wanted to explore why that is and look through the things that made me fall in love with it so much over the years. So with that being the case, strap on your vacuum cleaners, grab a flashlight, and be sure to pour yourself with today's brew, because with this video, we're going to be drinking a cup of Bones Coffee's Sumatra blend with your old-fashioned pour-over method. The coffee. The Bones Sumatra blend is the coffee equivalent of Luigi's Mansion for me. It has such a distinct taste with its bold, bitter, and beautiful flavor that it's something I haven't tasted anywhere else. I know in my last video I stated Cafe Bustelo is my favorite, and that is true, but this would be a very close second. Not only do the beans have such a distinct flavor based on where they're grown, but it's also how they're made. You see, Sumatra is an island in western Indonesia, offering rich, earthy soil and tropical climates that give it its distinct flavor. Additionally, it harvests through a process called wet hulling, which allows the beans to maintain more moisture, thus maintaining more flavor. It's a wonderful medium to dark roast that boasts more earthy flavors, but is also bitter and strong in nature. It may not be for everyone, but for your boy, it's perfect. So, with your coffee lesson out the way, let's take a cup to the mansion and catch us some ghosts. A game filled with personality. Luigi's Mansion debuted on the GameCube in September 2001 here in the United States, and if you're anything like me as a kid, then you probably unwrapped it sitting under the Christmas tree later that year. This game felt so special upon unwrapping it. Not only did it have some sort of the most memorable Nintendo art on the cover, that was also vastly different than anything they had at the time, but that only for sticker made it feel like something valuable. Now, I'll admit, I didn't know what game exclusivity was at the time, however, I was also like 6, but I digress. It felt so cool to have a game that wasn't about the main Mario brother, in addition to it being horror focused. I just love when Nintendo does horror or ghosts. They bring so much fun perspective to it that's full of humor, but also incredibly creative and colorful. It's such a fun, spooky vibe, but also contrasts anything else Mario related. However, despite this, the real feeling of intrigue for me came whenever I first booted up that little disc and heard this. Now this feels spooky. Not only does this main title theme and subsequent music bring about a sense of comfort today, but there's such earworms throughout the game, making every moment and tone of the levels feel so different. Furthermore, the music and small attention to details are what make this game so memorable for me and always have. For example, have you ever noticed how Luigi either whistles or hums his famous theme song based on if the space is ghost free or not? It really keys in the player throughout each level, letting you know that this is either a safe space or not. It's really creative. I'm gonna play a ghost occupied theme first, and then follow that up with the ghost free theme. Take a listen. Now here's the ghost-free version. Not only are these details mixed in with the music, but they also go for Luigi's health status as well, such as when Luigi's demeanor and voice changes when calling out for Mario based on the amount of health he has. It starts off very calm and smooth when you're at full health, but then quickly changes to fear and desperation as your health begins to run very low. It makes the player feel actual dread as you run through the rooms looking for hearts so you don't die as 50,000 ghosts are chasing you during the blackout section of the game.
Mario! Mario!
And now, low health.
Mario! Mario!
One of my favorite things that this game has to offer is it really develops Luigi's personality throughout the game, and his reaction to the surroundings he's in. It doesn't do this directly through dialogue, I mean, he barely speaks. However, if you go around the mansion and scan things with your Game Boy Horror, the game will display dialogue from Luigi as he's giving his thoughts on what he's looking at. Some of these are really funny, and it really fleshes out his personality as a character, giving some levity to this tense situation that he's in. For example, a few of my favorites are things such as, "It's a picture, but I wouldn't call it art," or, "So much dust, this will never pass the white glove test," or my personal favorite, "Well, at least we won't have a shortage of toilet paper." It's fun moments and small things like these that make the game feel so nostalgic and lived in. It fills Luigi with so much personality and character that you cannot help but love how goofy and scared, yet brave and composed he is. I mean, literally, he gets strapped up with a vacuum cleaner from a small scientist man he just met, and is told to go into a haunted mansion where everything is trying to kill him. That's some brave stuff. Now, I know that the feel of the game is nostalgic, but how does the gameplay clean up, huh? I'm sorry. The gameplay. The gameplay of this game is so much fun to me, and yet so incredibly simple. It's literally flash a flashlight at the ghost and expose their heart and bam, vacuum them up. It's an incredibly simple concept that works so well and applies to every single enemy type. Bosses, common enemies, small little mice, boos, those bastard grabbing ghosts that choke the shit out of you. However, it's when the game decides to do special things with this concept that make it feel so magical and unique. For example, there's a ghost type in this game that wears a mask and carries a spear, and that mask needs to be sucked up before you can capture them. I always refer to these enemy types as the Shy Guy ghosts, despite being called Ghost Guy. They dance in a pair together with another Shy Guy ghost and pursue you slowly before attempting to hit you. Simple, right? Well, yeah, but then it tends to get a little bit more complicated. Because what happens when you have to pair that enemy type with one that can grapple you, such as those bastard ghosts mentioned earlier? Or another that can leave behind banana peels to trip you up during the capturing process. I always refer to these as the Donkey Kong ghost. Additionally, the game also changes some of these ghost types later on, introducing the idea of elements as an additional power that gets introduced about a third of the way in. Not only do you need to have the proper element to counter these ghost types, but they will also then be paired with additional ghost types in some cases. Not only does this add a level of challenge to the game, but it makes such a simple concept so much fun and easy to learn, unveiling each of these challenges and abilities as the player gets better at handling these situations. Furthermore, when talking about each of these elements in the game, there are three: fire, water, and ice. Not only are these used for capturing ghosts, but they are also introduced as tools to use in puzzles, such as watering dead plants to receive money or gold, or lighting a room full of candles to receive a key for another door. My personal two favorites are always the butler in the hallway on the first floor of the house and the plant by the dog outside of the kitchen. For those that have no idea what I'm talking about, once you discover the fire element metal, you'll encounter a floating candlestick going back and forth through the hallway. As a kid, I thought, why the hell can I not capture the floating candlestick? And believe me, I tried. However, it wasn't until I looked through the Game Boy Horror at the candlestick that I discovered that it was a mini boss ghost type that I called the Butler, but his real name is Shivers. In order to capture him, you need to first find his room and unlock it, in addition to accessing a secret treasure room through a small mouse hole that you can scan. Then you need to light his candlestick in the hallway, run back to his quarters, and capture him as he's sitting on the bench resting up from the fire you just created. It was such a fun discovery when I was able to put the pieces together, but also one that the game allows you to find on your own. Additionally, when it comes to the plant, there's a small little bud in the garden outside where the dog is. His name is Spooky. If you do nothing with this bud, then nothing will happen. However, if you choose to water it, then eventually the bud will grow, and watering the bud some more will have it grow into a huge plant that will sprout, dropping rewards and diamonds that Luigi can pick up. However, if the player chooses to water it and not take care of it, then the plant will die, and you'll have missed out on any potential rewards. It's fun puzzles like these that make the gameplay and puzzle discovery so exciting, giving you that sense of discovery throughout the entire mansion. This will have you opening every drawer, door, chest, and toilet, in addition to using every element in any way possible. It's a very unique concept and one that I still find fun today. It even does this with the Game Boy Horror itself and its use of the booze as well. Not only will the Game Boy Horror send you back to the starting area if you scan any mirror in the game, but it also allows you to see or have a small little bit of dialogue out of each ghost, seeing what they look like and who they are before we capture them. But don't worry, we'll get there. Furthermore, the King Boo or smaller yet large Boo will also stop you from advancing at titular moments in the game, sending you back to the starting area serving as a you didn't capture enough booze mechanic, making you not rush through the game. I know it can be a chore sometimes, but I never really minded it myself. And it's small things like this that make the game feel so much fun for me, giving you time to explore and time to find every little puzzle put throughout. Whew, that was a lot, and my cup is empty. So I'm headed back for a refill, and I'm sure that you are too. You know, I will say though, I'm glad that you guys have stuck with me throughout this splurge of Luigi's Mansion, and I hope you love this game just as much as I do. However, when I think about this game and all of its wonderful mechanics, there's one thing that I think I like more than the mechanics, something that not only gives the puzzles purpose, but can also be puzzles themselves. Something that is also unique in each and every way, while also developing so much personality and substance into every reaction. So grab another cup, find a comfy chair, and let's talk about this game's main selling point, the ghosts. I am enthralled with the ghosts of this game. Not only are they my favorite part of this game, but they're the very thing that gives the Haunted Mansion so much life and personality that it's hard not to gush at the creativity and passion that was put into making each of these characters. And that goes for both the bosses and regular enemies too. Not only is it very easy to make each of these boss ghosts feel the same, something that I think the second and potentially the third games are to blame for. However, it is much harder to make each interaction feel special and unique, and I think that's why this game stands out. First off, I want to talk about the dialogue that each of these ghosts have whenever you scan their heart with the Game Boy Horror, just as I mentioned earlier. Not only will each of these ghosts say something to you, or in general, sometimes Luigi himself will even have something to say about them too. Not only is this special for the player, but it builds up each of these ghosts as being someone, giving each of them a personality and feel for who they are. Additionally, each of their environments or boss rooms reflect that personality even further, giving each of them some sort of environment that tells you everything you need to know about that character. For example, the first ghost that you face is the quiet father, Neville. He is sat in a small study by the fire, accompanied by shelves that are filled with books. What's even cooler is that you can even read some of these books by knocking on the shelves themselves, having Luigi give a description of what it says inside. Neville himself is also sporting an old robe, relaxing by said fire in a rocking chair. What's even cooler is he's not hostile either. He never tries to attack you or come after you when you walk into the room, only adding more to his laid-back demeanor. Furthermore, you can actually find his human portrait and several other ghost portraits in other rooms, building up these characters as people with close relationships to each other and living in this house rather than haunting it. It's such a fun concept to play with and such a creative way to build each of these characters, and believe me, Neville is not the exception, but the norm. And that level of passion and creativity put into each boss is so cool to me that it stands out in a huge way, making this game so much more memorable than it could have been. And okay, Crust, that's cool and all. The ghost designs are cool. But how are they gameplay wise? Well, let me tell you. Not only do each of these ghosts have great and unique dialogue, design, environments, but they have unique gameplay too. Remember how I said earlier that this game utilizes fun puzzles and the elemental metals for those puzzles at times? Well, these bosses are no different. I am not kidding when I say that each and every one of these bosses has some sort of unique mechanic or puzzle that needs to be done or figured out in order for you to capture them. Some ghosts use elemental metals such as Supi, the dozing girl, or Sir Weston, the Eskimo man, while others you need to complete a small task or puzzle for, like Mr. Lugs, Jarvis, and Biff Atlas. Additionally, you even have others that require small side missions associated with them, like Madame Clairvoyant or Uncle Grimly, whom I will never forgive for only being available during the blackout portion of this game. Not only is this so refreshing and so fun, but it truly is what makes each of these characters so unique and lets the player learn exactly who they are. From design to space to mechanics, it truly is a masterclass on how to build and flesh out this mansion. It fills the space with so much life, pun intended, but also makes the mansion feel so alive, pun intended again. Even when you start thinking of the mansion itself, you can see how these people could actually live here, thinking of each room as a space that is used by these characters and how they come together as a family. Which brings me to my last point, the story. To some, this game may not possess a story, and to them it may just be a game that some view as ghost, boss, repeat. However, I would say it's so much deeper than that, and it's a story about bravery and brotherhood. Not only does this game create a great atmosphere that allows the player to spend time with Luigi, but it puts you in the same emotional state as him throughout the unraveling of this mystery. Like, how did Luigi even win this mansion? Why did Mario meet you here? And speaking of which, where is he? Throughout the entire game, the story does a good job at giving you breadcrumbs as to what has happened to Mario, giving you items to find such as his hat, shoe, star, glove, and a written letter from him. Not only do these items feel special since they all feel so different from any of the other in-game items, but they drip feed you these small pieces of story throughout. Not only is this done by taking these items to Madame Clairvoyant and having her give the fate of what happened to Mario during the time he was in the mansion, but it also lets the player see where Mario himself has been. It really lets you develop your own experience when thinking about where each of these items are located and what rooms Mario himself may have visited while exploring the mansion looking for you, in addition to a ghost maybe looking out for him, seeing as his hat was washed. Thank you, Shivers. However, the game itself really kicks into high gear when you hear that slight echo coming from that well, seeing the fate that has befallen Mario, having been trapped by King Boo, embedded in a painting, and struggling to get out. I'm not gonna lie, this scared me as a kid. It made me feel this fear of entrapment and fear of what I would be like if I was Mario, being trapped, but finally seeing that brother that you were looking for so close to breaking you free, but literally stuck in the mouth of the lion's den, just out of reach. Not only does this let you, the player, feel some sort of urgency, but it keeps that mystery going, leaving the player to continually look for answers to their questions, morphing them into things like, how did Mario get in there? Is the rumor of Bowser true? If so, why is he here? And how am I going to get Mario out? It is a really great use of irony, while also setting the player up for a fantastic anticipation of events that are to come. Furthermore, it makes Luigi even more endearing than he was before. Not only was Luigi already our lovable but brave coward, but now in this situation, it makes him more of an underdog than he's ever been before. How is Luigi going to overcome such insurmountable odds? And how is he going to do that without his brother, whom we know from a plethora of games before is the one that can handle this situation with ease? It creates such a fantastic, endearing, lovable, and personality-filled underdog that by the time you go on to face King Boo and defeat him, overcoming a decapitated Bowser, explosions, the king of all the Boos, and the bangin' final boss track, it makes you fall in love with him even more, creating a situation where you not only believe Luigi can do it, but you can too. So, in the end, what does this give us? Well, I would say that it gives us the most heartwarming and sweetest scene that this entire game has to offer, contrasting anything that we've seen throughout this entire story, resulting in a satisfying and sweet ending that is bursting at the seams with heart.
Oh, Mario? Mamma mia. Oh, oh,
This scene made me cry as a kid, and sometimes as an adult. This is where Luigi became one of my favorite characters. Not only did it show me that it's okay for someone strong to cry, but it was wonderful to see that sense of relief on Luigi's face, laughing at Mario after overcoming this long, perilous journey, giving him the confidence and relief that yes, I can be brave, and yes, I too can be strong. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, take life one cup at a time.